Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. I'm Ira Lashane C. Chavez, the leader of the Group 2. In this video, we will discuss about East Asian Englishes. Did you know that in East Asia, there's a countries that has a different varieties of Pidgin English? There are Japanese English, Korean English, and Chinese English. Its functions vary from place to place. In no country is there a significant indigenous community of English speakers. Contacts from 17th century led to a number of pidgins, particularly Pidgin English used by and with British traders on the China coast, and Bamboo English used by and with US soldiers in Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. Such forms are now virtually extinct, having given way to an English usually learned in part at least in school. Now, me and my colleague Kawili will discuss about Japanese English. Did you know that in 1853, Commodore Perry's entrance in Tokyo Bay caused the Japanese people to start learning English? Curious more about Japanese? Well, the real opening of Japan took place after 1868 with the arrival of American missionaries who taught English in private and government schools. Japanese scholars and educators wrote about their predictions for eventual triumph of English. Mori Arinori, who was the first to become the Minister of Education, went so far to call Japanese a meager language. Although Japanese was, of course, never abolished, English borrowing proceeded at a great rate, to the point that in Hepburn's 1867 dictionary, the romanization or Romaji system was introduced, which continues in use even today.
Good day, I'm Maria Ramedis Kawili, and I'm here to continue the discussion.
During the World War II, the government attempted to banish English by replacing common words such as announcer or announcer with the esoteric hosoin. However, as soon as the war ended, English has made a comeback, and for its intimate incorporation into spoken Japanese, English has now become nativized in a variety of ways and play an important role in Japanese communicative strategies.
%81 of borrowed words in Japanese are from English, so that approximately 8% of the total Japanese vocabulary is derived from English. The borrowings, however, have been assimilated to conform to the phonological structure of the Japanese language.
Hayashi and Stan Lau provided the following examples: stool, suturu, gray zone, gure zone, 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven, thought, sotu, this, zisu, color, kara. Some grammatically accommodations are made, such as deriving adverbs with the postpositional particle ni instead of the adderations affix ko, which is used with the native words. Naisu or nicely, verbs are usually constructed by adding suru or do.
These words are commonly used in everyday life of a Japanese person. Even if you are not a Japanese, you can easily understand and say those words because they are Japanese language that derived from English language. Just like nice, nice. This word often used everywhere in Japan, even here in the Philippines. The emotion associated with this expression is excitement to a particular situation.
Good day to each and everyone. I'm Marjek El Kasamis and my colleague Jana Noela P. Kumpa will discuss about the Korean English language. Let me introduce to you some backgrounds about the Korean English language. Korea's first encounter with English can be dated back to the late 70s to early 80s, when a few Western ships would arrive at the coast of the Korean Peninsula, but English language education was first introduced to Korea in 1883, when the Joseon government opened an English language school in order to train interpreters.
Korea came into contact with English towards the end of 19th century, but during the Japanese occupation, the link was weakened.
English language found its way in this part of the world by the late 18th century. The British Empire had spread English through its colonized and geopolitical dominance. However, English regained and strengthened its position after the Second World War. At the end of the Korean War, around 1950 to 1953, English language learning and teaching became widespread in South Korea, while North Korea came under Russian influence.
According to Shimi 1999, the English textbooks being used in middle and high schools already exemplify the results of spontaneous codification of Korean English. Although the professed objective of the English language teaching in Korea is based on the American English model, the language embodied in the English textbook and reference material examined by Shim differs from the model in three important aspects. Koreans use a large number of loanwords, majority of which are derived from English. They may have originated in English, but they may not always have the same meaning in Korean. Salpo in Korean, self in English. Sansu in Korean, sense in English. Obeo in Korean, over in English. Even if you are not a Korean, many of these words are easy to comprehend and pronounce because of the bulk of them are borrowed from English. Similarly, the word over, hobeo, is commonly used throughout Korean, including the Philippines. In any circumstances, the emotion connected with this statement is supported.
Chinglish is a slang for spoken or written English language that is either influenced by a Chinese language or is horribly translated. In Hong Kong, Macau, Guangdong, and Guangxi, the term Chinglish refers mainly to Cantonese-influenced English. This term is commonly applied to ungrammatical or nonsensical English in Chinese context and may have pejorative or deprecating connotations. Other terms used to describe the phenomenon include Chinese English, China English, English, and Sinicized English. The degree to which a Chinese variety of English exists or can be considered legitimate is disputed. For question number 1, how did the English language find its way in part of China? What is the history of English in this region or country? English first arrived in China in 1637 when British traders reached Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangzhou. In the 17th century, Chinese Pidgin English originated as a lingua franca for trade between British people and mostly Cantonese-speaking Chinese people. This Proto-Chinglish term, Pidgin, originated as a Chinese mispronunciation of the English word business. Following the First and Second Opium War between 1839 to 1842, Pidgin English spread north to Shanghai and other treaty ports. Pidgin usage began to decline in the late 19th century when Chinese and missionary schools began teaching Standard English. In 1982, the People's Republic of China made English the main foreign language in education. Current estimates for the number of English learners in China range from 300 to 500 million.
We all know that it's impossible to learn all these Chinese words. But what if you were told that there are quite a few words in English that you already know? For the question number 2, what are some unique words or expressions of this English variety? Cite 3 to 5 examples. Here are some Chinese words used in English that you already know. The first is peku. Peku is a popular type of tea, typically produced in Sri Lanka and India. The name comes from a Chinese dialect called Amoy, spoken in Xiamen, China, in which the tea is called Pek Hu. In Mandarin, it's Bai Hu, which means white empress. The name refers to the downy tips of young buds from the tea plant. The second is bok choy. Bok choy, a leafy green vegetable with the white stems, can be found at Chinese stores or general grocery stores. It's a common ingredient in Asian cuisine. The word comes from baisha, meaning white vegetable. The third is chop suey. Chop suey is a mixed vegetable dish you can order at Chinese restaurants. It comes from zashu, means mixed pieces. For example, you might see pork chop suey or vegetable chop suey listed on a menu. For the number 3, illustrate the context of use of these words. For the first, who would use them? The Chinese who wants to eat. Second, in what occasions or situations would these expressions be appropriate to use? When the person is eating or when she thinks that this is what she wants to cook. And for the third, what kind of attitude or emotion is associated with these expressions? It might be happy, craving, or surprise. And lastly, how has this activity expanded your view about the English language? This activity expanded our knowledge about different variety of Pidgin English in the East Asia. What is the history of each Pidgin English and how similar are those words in English synonyms? However, even English language is always has been a diverse entity. English exists in the world today as a means of international communication, as a way for people from different social groups to communicate with each other. And to fulfill this function, it would seem that variation in the language needs to be curtailed to a certain extent. That is to say, if the language becomes too diverse, it will not remain mutually comprehensible across different social groups. So we have two impulses at work that are seemingly incompatible or perhaps even in conflict, and the question we are faced with is how to render them as consistent, as both being part of the existence of a single entity we call English.